I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Today we're behind Latch Island at the historic Wagon Bridge. This bridge is currently being refurbished to preserve its beauty and antiquity and to make it safe to pass over to the other side. The Wagon Bridge is the link from Latch Island to 1,400 acres of parkland given to the city of Winona by the grocer and philanthropist John Latch. The park is known as Agaming Park. It is a unique area of land that was given to us for our recreational pleasure and for environmental educational purposes. Today we'll find out why it has been silent for so long and what is planned to make it come alive in the future. This bridge, known as the Old Wagon Bridge, is really the newest of several bridges built over this waterway. This concrete 12-arch bridge was built in 1917. Before that, a number of wooden bridges were built here. John Latch, who was born in Dodge, Wisconsin in 1860, would travel to Winona in a horse and buggy with his father from the foothills of the Wisconsin Bluffs through the marshy lowlands now known as Agaming Park, across a number of bridges to the edge of what is now known as Latch Island. Here, a ferry known as the Turtle would carry him over to the center street in Winona. In 1886, a more substantial timber bridge was built which connected Agaming to Latch Island. The iron train bridge crossed the Mississippi a bit west of this ferry landing. It was constructed in 1870 and collapsed the first time a train went over it. It was rebuilt several times after that and finally built solid in 1889. Remnants of it still stand. By 1892, John Latch was 32 years old. He had moved to Winona at 7 years of age when his father opened a grocery store here. It was this year he became a partner with his father in the wholesale grocery business. And that same year, an interstate bridge was built east of the railroad bridge that connected Winona at Main Street to the timber bridge on Latch Island. This bridge had two 90-degree turns as it dropped into Winona. It was made out of iron and had a wooden planked platform. A toll was charged for anyone and anything that crossed from Wisconsin into Minnesota. A double team of horses with a wagon or an automobile with a driver and a female passenger, for instance, cost 25 cents. It was also a dangerous bridge. People found it hard to maneuver these 90-degree turns, especially late in the evening or during the icy road period of winter. It was during this time John Latch was growing his business on Center and 2nd Street and making lots of money. He worked hard during the week, and on weekends he would take his jug of buttermilk, a box of crackers, and a week's worth of newspapers and head out in his small canoe up and down the Mississippi River, paddling the currents and spending relaxing moments on its shores. This was his freedom. It was enjoyed in the beauty of the Winona region. The halt of this freedom was realized one day when a rainstorm came up suddenly. He paddled to shore and covered himself with his canoe to wait out the storm. A farmer who was grazing his cows nearby cursed John out and kicked him off the land. This threat was pivotal to John's life as well as to the city of Winona. As John paddled back to Winona through the rain that day, a dream began to take hold. He would buy the land he was intimidated from and more, and establish a huge wildlife and recreational refuge where children could play, animals could live, trees could grow, and a quiet man could land his canoe and relax unchallenged by a gruff landowner. John purchased 18,000 acres of land. He bought most of the bottomland and the river islands from Minneska to Homer, plus large acreages in the blufflands on both sides of the river. He then gave it all away for parks, playgrounds, and wildlife habitat. At the time of John Latch's death in 1934, it was calculated that Winona had developed 17 millionaires. John Latch had given more back to the city of Winona than all of them combined. Because of John Latch today, people in Wisconsin enjoy Perot State Park in Trempealeau and Merrick State Park in Fountain City. In Minnesota, we enjoy the Latch State Park near Minneska and Whitewater State Park. In Winona, John Latch gave us Prairie Island, Westfield Golf Course, Gaybrook Park, part of our lake park on Lake Winona, and Latch Island, which lies across from our levee. Across the water on the other side of this island is the 1,400-acre piece of land John Latch donated to Winona called Argamine Park. The name is Chippewa for exactly that, across the water. The water in between is called Bathhouse Slough, so named because a bathhouse, also paid for by John Latch, was built in 1907, faced this waterway. There also was a lodge on this island where people could spend the night. People would drive over the old wooden wagon bridge to get to it, to cool off in the summertime and jump off the wooden high dive. They also brought their fishing poles to fish off the old wooden bridge that connected Latch Island to Argamine Park. In 1917, the wood bridge across Bathhouse Slough was replaced with the concrete arch bridge we see today. The bathhouse was moved in 1924 to the main channel side of Latch Island. Winonans born before 1975 remember the Latch bathhouse at this spot. This is Jerry Miller, who's the current mayor of Winona, and he's going to tell us about the city involvement of the Wagon Bridge and Argamine Park. Hi, okay. Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Okay, Jerry, now tell me about the bridge itself. Tell me about the involvement of the city with the bridge.
Okay, back in 1945, the then mayor and council at that time and the people decided that they wanted to own that bridge to maintain access to the property that they own in Wisconsin. So they made a deal with the state and with the federal government, and they said, we're going to take care of this bridge, it's ours. So now in 2003, or actually started with 3-4 years ago, the present council, or whoever was on the council at that time, decided that now we're going to face up to that responsibility. The state said that the bridge either had to be torn down or fixed. We're facing up to the responsibility to fix it so that we also can maintain access, full access to the property that we own over in Wisconsin, which is called Argamine Park.
For 25 years, the arch concrete wagon bridge was the main passageway over Bathhouse Slough. But when the new, more direct interstate bridge was built in 1942, the old iron bridge was torn down, and the arch concrete bridge remained, still used by those who drove over to Argamine Park. Don Trester was one of those people. This is Don Trester, who is the commander of the AmVets Association Winona, or American Veterans, and he is the one who's responsible for spearheading the fundraising for the Wagon Bridge and for Argamine Park. Hi, Don.
Hi, Joyce.
Now, Don, tell me about your love of Argamine Park.
Argamine is something special to me. To you, it's Argamine. To me, it's Isaac Walton Park.
Okay.
Because when I was a kid, that's what we called it, Isaac Walton Park. Mm-hmm. And people said, why did you call it Isaac Walton Park? Because here, this whole park was governed by Isaac Walton Lee. Okay. And in 1938, right across from the Bay State Mills, mm-hmm. Isaac Walton built a cottage.
Okay.
And it was a log cabin cottage. And that log cabin cottage had a small driving range, it had a rifle range, it had what we used to put old tires or ceilings, it had fly casting, and they'd have championships for kids every summer. Well, we'd all come over here. You couldn't go to Prairie Island because there wasn't no Prairie Island. There was nothing but a little dump out there because the high water and everything came over every year. Mm-hmm. And Lake Winona was dirt roads. So what did you do in Lake Winona? Uh-huh. So here was our park. Now we did have one other alternative. That was Arches or Whitewater Park. Mm-hmm. And that was the only two parks we had. I was only a small teenager in that. And I won my first bow and arrow contest here. And there, I made the bow of the West End Ballpark, which is wrecked now. And we made it, and we came over here, and I had a championship here. And I happened to come in first. Wow. So I'll never forget it. Mm-hmm. And I won't forget jumping off the bridge like many of us kids did. I won't, in fact, if we didn't have a nickel to get into Bathing Beach over here, we came over here and swam for nothing.
What was John Latch's connection with Isaac Walton League?
Well, Will Dilge was the founder of the Isaac Walton League. And in 1900 or 1920 or 22 is when the Isaac Walton League was formed. Will Dilge made a statement. He says, let's start a league and form it and run it like that man, Mr. Latch in Winona, Minnesota has done. Will Dilge got all his ideas in there from John Latch. The only thing I can make a statement that I read over 2 or 3 times, the only thing Mr. Latch had against the Isaac Walton League is that the government came in, the Conservation League and everything, and they wanted to come out and make this private refuge in that. Otherwise, they didn't want no human beings or anything. They wanted to leave it there. And Mr. Latch didn't like that. He wanted his property to be for the people. And he wanted to have access. He wanted his people to have access to all the land he owned, because that was what happened to him. And that's one thing he did not agree with the Isaac Walton League or the government, that they wanted to close it off. And Mr. Latch says, no, my land will stay open.
All that's left of the Isaac Walton cabin is a partial stone foundation. The cabin burned down sometime in the 50s, and maintenance of the park discontinued. The bridge also continued to deteriorate, and in 1996 was closed to automobile traffic. Over the next few years, the city faced a dilemma. Should the old bridge be torn down for a cost of $1.4 million or restored for barely more than that amount? Most of the public felt it was a no-brainer.
I've got memories that I could go on for days, maybe even months, because of all the things, everything, I'm getting to the age where I got to think twice, but I can just keep on reminiscing about all the things I've done with my mother, my grandmother, my aunts. In fact, I was at the athletic club yesterday. They had their little yearly going picnic there. And I was talking to my cousin Don Plusky, and we were doing the same thing. And he said, oh yeah, remember when we, and we're only kids that, you can't take that away from nobody.
Right. Well, it's obvious you really have a love for this park.
I love everything. I love this bridge. Because somebody says they're going to tear it down. I know they're not. And they can't tear my bridge down. And then give credit to the AMBES, because every member of the AMBES put their heart and soul in that bridge. We came up with the idea of having our T-shirts. Otherwise, if we'll sell T-shirts, and at least if we don't do nothing else, we'll bring it to the people's attention that we need help. That the city of Winona needs help to get the bridge so we can get to the park. So we came up with our SOP is to save our bridge so we can save our park.
Well, let's see. I think you have a wonderful picture of that on the back. All right, cute. Well, how much did you raise?
Well, at that time we raised about, I think on our T-shirts alone we raised almost $10,000.
Great.
So we kept on going and everything. We were talking. And then we finally said, hey, let's have a telethon. We had 24 hours and we raised probably over $30,000.
Let's talk a little bit about the money. What's it going to cost, and tell me about the phases of reconstruction.
Okay, right now we projected the total cost to be approximately $2 million. We have spent so far $1 million plus, a little over $1 million, to complete the top part of the bridge. It was projected another $1 million to do the bottom, to take care of the bottom piers and all that. I don't think it's going to cost that much, and I think right now we're at about $1.4 million to $1.5 million. So, and we're continuing to fundraise. We're continuing to go after grants. The Colonel was here last week from the Corps, and I know a number of us had conversations with him to see what help they could give us. But I feel it's important to do the bottom in order to give the community that full access to all ages of people. It's about a quarter mile to walk across there. It's not maybe a great walk, but as we get into what we want to do in the park and what we want to accomplish, I feel that it's important to have that full access so we could have some vehicle traffic on the bridge.
Okay. Now you say it's not a great walk, meaning it's not a great walk in
No.
length. However, it is a great walk because it is so beautiful.
It's a
over that
beautiful
bridge.
walk, and
Yeah.
when I come over here, we take our dog over here, and it is a nice walk.
Fabulous.
But
yeah.
So now we're in the final stages of doing the top side of the bridge out of the water. That's all funded.
Okay.
So we need just a little bit more to do the underwater part.
All right.
And with your documentary and everything, with the great help you're giving us, and maybe we can even thank the people in the past, like Eric Sorensen, the city manager, all the work he's done and all the work he's put in. And what about the city council? We can't even thank them enough for money they give us to finish the top half, and especially Tim Brizza, all the research and help he's given us.
Sure.
So all these people has done this for us. Now we're taking a little deep breath and hoping that maybe we go over the top and get it done.
Okay. How much do you think you have to raise to fix the Wagon Bridge?
Well, right now we're in the process of checking that, but it'll probably be around $300,000 to $400,000 more to get the
Okay.
rest of it done.
And up to this point, how much have you raised?
Over $1.5 million.
Wow. Okay. Now, in that, I understand you had one good anonymous gift.
Oh yeah. We call him our big donator and everything,
Okay.
and we thank him from the bottom of our heart. He doesn't want to be known, but we still thank him.
Okay. And how much did he give you?
So far, about $500,000. What he said is that he'd match $1 million if we got $1 million donation.
Okay.
And so far we haven't got the $1 million donation, so we do not have $1 million by him giving his gift.
Sure.
But he is still matching funds whatever we get,
Okay. So up to this point, how much have you gotten?
about $500,000.
Great.
And
Okay.
and like I was saying, we're proud of it.
Absolutely. Jim Balonis, the superintendent of the Wagon Bridge reconstruction from Schwab Construction Company, tells us about the phases of rebuilding the old Wagon Bridge.
Originally, this bridge used to run flat, and where it tapers down at, there used to be off-ramps there when it was flat. And one side they'd take horse wagons and stuff off, there'd be an off-ramp, and the other side was the sidewalk to walk down. And I think it was in the 40s maybe, they took and they cut the concrete piers off and they lowered the end of the bridge. The project originally was in 3 phases. The first phase was most of the structural work, and then there was a second phase where there was joint work and new drains put in and curbs and stuff like that. Well, it just didn't seem that would work right to do one part of it, not the other, so they combined both phases. So we're pretty much doing twice the work now, and the underwater work is just going to be a bunch of breaker rock around all the columns and everything under the water. Pretty much we have a bridge that's built underneath this bridge that we have sitting on the piers, and that's on rollers, and we move it along, and we do a 72-foot section at a time where we'll shore everything up from the bottom, and then we'll demo it out, and then we'll put in all the new rebar and pour it back in. It takes about 3 weeks.
Okay. And what about the sides of the bridge? What are you doing with that?
Well, there's a lot of spots where the rebar has gotten corroded and it just falls the concrete off. So what we're doing is taking all the loose concrete off and cleaning the rebar and coating the rebar, and then we're putting a structural patch back on it, and that won't come off. We're taking all these drains out, all the old drains. They were flushed up with the bottom of the deck, and over the years all the salt they put onto the bridge would go down through and hang on all the beams, and salt is really bad for concrete, so it all got corroded. Now what we're doing is taking them out, and we're putting galvanized drains that'll hang 3 feet below the bridge deck, so then anything that runs through them is going to go right through instead of hanging on the bridge. We jackhammer from the outside of the bridge edge into this beam, and we just try and saw everything that we can saw so we don't do any structural damage to all the beams down below. That makes it easier to clean up, and then we don't get anything falling into the river that way. The more we can saw, the less goes in the river. This is a section of curb that's ready to pour right now. It's loaded up with a lot of rebar. It's actually a structural beam and a curb. This is where we poured the new curb back. This is where the new parapet wall is going to sit on top of it. Pretty much it's going to have 2 foot long 1-inch stainless steel rods coming out of the bottom that'll be epoxied into this curb, so it definitely won't fall off. There's no way it can rust and fall off of there. This is the last band before you get to the park, and it's the hardest part of setting the new handrails because it has camber in, and with the parapet walls going on there, it's just tougher setting them on something that's round. So after this one, they're going to get a lot easier. Here's when we got here, this was all spalled off because of the rust on the rebar, and it expands and blows the concrete off. So what we did is knocked all the loose concrete out, then saw cut it so it had a good shoulder. We'll grind all the rust off and then paint it with a coating, and then we'll put a structural patch back in there, and the stuff really bonds in there.
What about the color of the bridge, Jimmy? What's going to happen with that?
Well, eventually they'll either sandblast it or they'll pressure wash it, and it'll lighten up to this color here. It'll lighten up a little more to match our patchwork that we put on there. One thing that I thought of that they could do when they have the kids that have to do the community service is that they could send them out here with wire brushes. They could at least clean it up part of the way. It would clean up easy. This stuff comes off easy.
How do you like working on this historic bridge?
I like it. I like working with concrete. There's a lot of controversy on the job, which is good, and it's a challenge.
Okay, what kind of controversy are you talking about?
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't really want to spend the money on the bridge, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff back there that can be done, and if they make it safe, more people will be back there. I mean, there's a lot of good ice fishing back in the harbor and everything back in there, and the way I understand it, they might put a campground back there.
Biggest thing I want from Wagon, Maine is to make it usable. I want it, when I mean usable, is show the park with some picnic grounds, some roadways, some footpaths, some observation towers for the Audubon Society or the kids to watch birds at their own level. Mm-hmm. Then get back in there to have some footpaths going back into the wetlands.
Okay.
And come back where I was yesterday, mm-hmm. over there where Isaac Walton Cottage was, to have something back there, maybe 2 or 3 picnic tables along the way and mm-hmm. everything, sure. So you can stop and see what there is, mm-hmm. and park and have a sandwich and everything. Mm-hmm. Maybe even like Lake Winona's got some of them docks out there, so the kids can come out there and fish off of them. Man, that'd be so beautiful.
Great idea.
I think. Mm-hmm. And when you got something like 16 to 1,800 acres of land out here, and you're not doing nothing with it, that's just a waste of Mother Nature.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do over there. Now, the city is responsible for that tract of land. That
right.
belongs to Winona, even though it's in Wisconsin.
Right.
So tell me what the plans are for Agaming Park in the future.
Okay. That belongs to you and me and everybody else out there. So, it's our park. Right, what do we want to do? My opinion, right, my view, I have a vision of a park where you go across the bridge and you might find a nice area where you can maybe, where buses can leave students off, or buses can leave elderly people off, and then we have paths, and maybe we have a garden, a natural garden, maybe we got a 50-acre natural garden with paths where people can walk through, where people can enjoy the scenery, people can view the birds. We also have a boat landing over there where people can bring their boats and put it in, bring a canoe or a kayak, get into the backwaters where we have fishing guides, where we have classes that with the schools can come over, and we have an environmental class. This is the wild. This is nature on the river, and place where people can enjoy themselves, where we have walking paths, we have bicycling paths. We can launch our canoe, we can see some deer, we can do some fishing.
Okay, and we can learn about the Mississippi River.
And we can learn about the Mississippi River.
Right.
And this river flows steadily every day. And, this is, we can learn about Winona by learning about the river.
Sure. Do you envision people from other states and other
Definitely.
nations coming here to the Mississippi?
I can really see that interpretive center where maybe the main structure is over there, and maybe the school is over here. The hands-on school is right over here, where maybe we got an area there where the youngsters and people not so young can go over there and plant stuff. in the wild and watch it grow.
Now, Mayor Miller, as a young boy, you grew up in Winona,
Right.
and you grew up on the Mississippi River.
Right.
As a young man, I understand you were one of the lifeguards at Latch Beach.
Spent a few years there. Right.
Okay, and you have a special regard for the
Well, right.
Mississippi. Tell me about it.
I think many of us my age grew up on the river. There wasn't all the traffic you have today. You know, if you had a 25 horsepower boat, man, that was a big thing. And we grew up on the river. We appreciated the river. We spent time on the river. There used to be 1,500 people a day that would come over and swim at Latch Island. Those are things that we had to do. We didn't have the air conditioning and all that, so we came over here to Latch Island and we went swimming. So, you know, those of us that are from here, that grew up here, have that appreciation of the river. And now I think we want to, what this will enable us to do is open up that appreciation that we have, not only for the people in Winona, but hopefully the area. And like you said, the country and maybe the world, to come and look at the Mississippi River, learn about the Mississippi River, see what it was like years ago, and do it right here in Winona.
Well, Jerry, that's a great vision for Winona and for the people of Winona.
Thank you, Joyce. And you know, you and I, we grew up kind of in this,
We sure
this
did.
era, and it was good times then, and hopefully better times are coming.
Okay, and I want to thank you and for all the
Thank you.
people involved that are getting Arguming Park going again.
Thanks.
And thanks for joining me today. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona.